everybody was scared to talk about it because he'd have him killed. Yeah, it's really wild, man.
You know, Diddy bought his son a Bentley. Maybe, you know, he could buy you one also while you're out.
He got me a Lamborghini.
Well, that's nice.
I haven't gotten it yet, though.
Yeah, I know. When is that coming, that Lamborghini? We talked about this last time.
He had the Lamborghini for a day or two, and he had access to the house, and he knows better than to be talking about the things that he does with Big Brother Puff on national television.
So check this out, yo. Justin, you ever seen the movie 48 Hours? Right now, he's having 48 hours with Diddy, him and his boy. They're having the times of their lives, like, you know, where we hanging out and what we doing. We can't really disclose, but it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream.
I don't know how many people came out of the fame as a young person and were fine, but the people that stay and keep doing it, they're not fine. Most of them. I mean, maybe there's a few. I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible to do, but I'm saying the challenge of becoming a normal person with like a normal view of the world when, you know, you're getting doted on when you're 6 and you're the moneymaker in the house when you're a little kid, like your parents stop working to manage you. You know, Justin Bieber had a post the other day on his Instagram talking about all the drugs that he did when he was younger and how much it f***ed him up. And now he's got a relationship with the Lord and he's got, you know, he's married and he's trying to be a normal person.
Yeah.
But he's struggling with the fact that he was insanely famous when he was a kid. And then there's also like people that are elites and that's their thing. Like their thing is to do something that is horrible and, you know, it's not available to other people. So it's like, I think there's like a sickness that people have when they have power, like extreme power. And then well, what else can I do? What else can I do? What else is what else is taboo? What else is forbidden? You know, when you're a little kid and you become famous, like, and you're the one calling the shots, you realize all these people you're responsible for their income.
Because I think if a victim comes out against Usher, it'll show how egregious it is. Because if he can be a predator, then anybody can be a predator.
Can't smile in your face the whole time.
You feel what I'm saying? Like, people look at Usher, they don't see that. They're not seeing the victim. They're not seeing that boy that got rushed to the hospital. They're not seeing what the intentions was in his heart when he took Justin Bieber there.
Oh.
Let's be honest. He took Justin Bieber there. Diddy had been trying to get to Bieber for a minute. And his management was backing him off. But it wasn't until Usher took over management and had guardianship and gave temporary guardianship to the diddler for 48 hours. Think about that.
So many horrific accusations, though, involving young singers, like children.
It started with silence, not the usual kind that settles before a podcast kicks off, but a heavy silence, the kind that weighed down every inch of the studio. Joe Rogan sat back in his chair, eyes fixed on a stack of papers, his voice, normally booming with confidence, cracked slightly as he whispered, no chart-topping single could prepare anyone for this. And from that moment, viewers knew something was very wrong. What Rogan was holding wasn't just gossip. It wasn't rumor or speculation. It was a paper trail, a timeline, and a confession that painted a chilling picture of what really happened to Justin Bieber at the age of 15. Back in the early 2000s and 10s, Justin Bieber was everywhere. His songs topped charts, his face plastered every billboard, and his name was on the lips of millions of fans worldwide. But while the world saw a pop star ascending, few understood the storm behind the scenes. Joe Rogan, known for his directness and fearless commentary, had just pulled back the curtain on that storm. He began by highlighting a clip that resurfaced online, an old interview where Diddy boasted about spending 48 hours with a young Bieber. Diddy smiled and laughed as he described the time they spent together, saying it was a 15-year-old's dream. But when pressed for details, he refused to elaborate. He used phrases like, "We can't really disclose, and he's with me." To the untrained ear, it might have sounded like mentorship, but Joe Rogan and millions of listeners heard something much different. "Boy, and I've seen a lot in this industry," Joe said, voice trembling, "but nothing prepared me for this." He pointed to the footage, Diddy casually stating that Justin was under his care, even using the word custody. Whether legal or not, the implications were alarming, and it didn't stop there. Joe brought up Usher, Bieber's original mentor, who had introduced him to the industry and was believed to have his best interests at heart. But the timeline revealed something disturbing. Just as Justin was getting comfortable under Usher's guidance, he was suddenly handed off to Diddy. Not through formal transitions or contracts, but informally, as if the young teen was being passed around under the guise of opportunity. This wasn't an accusation pulled from thin air. Joe had the paperwork, travel logs, rehearsal schedules, and even hand-scribbled notes from a young Bieber expressing his exhaustion and desire to go home. One note stood out in particular: "This is too much. I need to sleep. Please don't make me go again." Joe paused. He folded the note carefully, laid it on the table, and looked into the camera. That's a child asking for peace. That's not ambition talking. That's survival. The podcast continued with detailed accounts from industry insiders who described similar experiences. Long days at secluded estates, no phones allowed, intense training sessions that started after midnight, and strict supervision with little room for personal freedom. One former producer recalled being told not to interrupt Diddy's sessions with his protege, a term that, in this context, took on a very different tone. What pushed Rogan to tears, however, wasn't just the paper trail or the hidden footage. It was a therapist's report detailing the long-term mental toll on Justin Bieber. The report, entered as part of a deposition, described the teen as emotionally withdrawn, overstimulated, and constantly living in fear of disappointing the powerful figures around him. The report included phrases like reward-punishment cycles, over-monitoring, and lack of personal agency. Joe didn't shout, he didn't rant, he simply read the words aloud, his voice shaking. This wasn't a mentor, this was a handler. The podcast then played a clip from a recent Justin Bieber Instagram post where he talked about his struggles with anxiety, substance use, and pressure from being in the spotlight at a young age. Though Justin never named names, Joe connected the dots using timelines and contracts that mysteriously allowed Diddy control over Justin's travel and accommodations, yet were never formally approved under industry protocols for minors. "I've seen kids get taken advantage of," Joe said, eyes wet. "But this one hurts, because it was in plain sight." Things only escalated when Joe revealed a piece of security footage handed to investigators. In it, a young Justin could be seen walking down a corridor at 3:12 a.m., flanked by two adults clutching his guitar. He didn't appear excited or energetic. He looked nervous, tense. The footage was brief, but it spoke volumes. On a whiteboard behind a door was a phrase written in red marker: "Full immersion weekend." Below that, 5-minute phone limits. No outside calls, vocal drills all day. There was no mention of schoolwork, music theory, or even basic wellness breaks. Joe didn't hesitate. That's not training, that's conditioning. The backlash was swift. By the end of the second hour of the broadcast, 3 major companies had already begun removing Diddy-related content from their digital platforms. A sneaker brand halted a collaboration mid-campaign. A streaming service started reviewing old video content for reconsideration. Suddenly, nostalgia for the 2000s hitmaker wasn't enough to shield him from public scrutiny. But the most powerful moment came in the final stretch of Joe's podcast. As he read through one last page, a summary of Justin's mental state at age 16, Joe broke completely. The report described him as a young man disconnected from self, overexposed to stress, and detached from peers. His only solace came from rare moments of solitude. Joe leaned in and said quietly, "If you saw the signs and you said nothing, this is on you too." The broadcast wasn't just a condemnation of Diddy's actions, it was a wake-up call to an entire industry. Joe Rogan used his platform to demand change. "This isn't about canceling anyone, nah," he said. "It's about protecting the next kid. Fame should be a ladder, not a cage." He ended the stream by pledging all ad revenue from that episode to youth mental health initiatives and artist advocacy organizations. "The system failed this kid," Joe said, referring to Justin. "Let's make sure it doesn't fail the next." As the lights dimmed and the episode closed, one thing was clear. The illusion of Diddy as the smiling mogul, the mentor, the icon, it was shattered. What stood in its place was a man whose influence had been unchecked for far too long and whose legacy now faced serious questions. The music world had danced to his beats for decades, but now the rhythm had changed. A new tune was playing, one of truth, accountability, and justice. And it was Justin Bieber, once voiceless in his youth, who helped start that chorus.